Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at NDN TV Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button and be the first to get notifications.
If the optimism expressed about the fate of the Petroleum Industry Bill PIB by Senior Special Assistant to the President, Senator Enang, is anything to go by, then the proposed legislation will be passed and subsequently assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari by the end of the year 2020. Senator Enang, in the following interview, is optimistic that when it becomes operational, the proposed law will transform the petroleum industry and make it more attractive to investors.
I worked in the House of Representatives on the bill in 2006-2007. We considered it again in the House of Representatives in 2010-2011. When I was in the Senate, we considered the bill and we passed it. But it was passed, but I think it wasn't assented to. When I became liaison officer to the President, and in respect of the National Assembly Senate, I piloted it. The National Assembly passed it, but there were still deficiencies, so it wasn't assented to. And Mr. President was very critical of the bill because it said that Mr. President, in one of the communications he sent to the National Assembly, said, look, by the time you give so much of this to different agencies, not much will remain to feed the local governments, the states, and the federation. And he made a lot of observations that the power that were given to the commissions were too many. So all these observations of Mr. President at that time, you know, when he declined assent to the 8th Assembly passage, have been taken account of. And Mr. President ensured through the difference of the institutions that there were consultations with the legislators. Then all the reservations that were had in the 6th Assembly, 7th Assembly, and finally the 8th Assembly were taken account of, addressed. Then the question of the agencies which with the regulation will not be necessary were removed, you know, and so the areas of friction or possible argument has been eliminated to a great extent. But we're not expecting a yes, 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 because the job of the legislature is not to pass the bill. So I'm not urging the legislature to pass the bill. I'm urging the legislature to consider the bill and pass it as thought fit, considering what we have gone through and in consultation with the executive. Because we are not the executive. When the president presents something, it is for consideration. So, but one thing I'm assured, the Senate President and the Senate and the Speaker have assured is that they will pass the bill within the year, within a reasonable time. Because funding of the budget, given the challenge of the economy, will depend on how much we have from the natural resources. And investment in the oil sector, particularly the downstream of the upstream sector, has been affected because many investment decisions could not be taken because there were uncertainties in the state of the law. So by the time they pass it, international investors in the upstream and some in the downstream will now know the state of the law and they will come and invest. Financiers will now know the risk or know the level of risk they will invest and they will expose their investment to, and the assurance that it will be de-risked, and then they will cause their funds to be applied in those investments. So there will be more activity in the oil sector, downstream and upstream, and there will be more employment because when more players come into the field, when there is certainty of the law, then definitely there's going to be employment of more people. So I'm assured, and the President has been assured, and the nation has been assured by His Excellency the President of the Senate and the entire Senate, and His Excellency the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the entire House of Representatives, that the Petroleum Industry Bill 2020 will be passed for 2020, and by all grace may be assented to in 2020 or so soon thereafter.
Inside the Niger Delta,